With Vince McMahon willing to step away from WWE and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Touching on his near signing with WWE, New Japan star Jeff Cobb told Steve Fall of Wrestling News, "It just so happened right before the pandemic in 2020, I started getting phone calls. William Regal would call me. Brian Kendrick would call me. Hey, is it cool if we pass your number to WWE Senior Director of Talent Development, Canyon Kamen? I'm always open to talk to people and entertain talks." This was around the time New Japan and I were figuring out a contract situation. At the same time, AEW offered me a contract as well. This is the first time where I ever felt like, oh my gosh, I was the new girl in high school and all the guys want to be with me. It was really cool. I got really close. Maybe in the summer of 2021, I was FaceTiming Canyon Kamen a couple of times, maybe June or July, and it got pretty close. I got to hear what they offer, and at the end of the day, I chose what I was doing as opposed to going after the money, and people were giving me a lot of grief for that. At the end of the day, I can make a great living being in Japan and doing a couple of appearances here and there. It may not be like WWE The Rock money, but I'm a low maintenance kind of guy. I don't need millions and millions of dollars, although people are like, you're stupid for not taking it. The good thing about it is a few months after a bunch of conversations with Canyon is when he got fired and a huge dumping of the roster happened. Looking back, I think I made a good choice because if I went there 6 months later, I could have been released and crawling back to another company for a job. New Japan definitely took care of me during the pandemic when they didn't have to. We still got paid. If they're loyal to me, I'm going to be loyal to them. During an interview on The Sessions, Samoa Joe revealed that I think I am the most fined, suspended guy in TNA history. Maybe not by this point, I don't know. When Renee asked what for, he said, I just get upset, at things, and I just wouldn't handle it the right way. And I flipped, but well, here's the thing. It's never physical, I've never assaulted anybody, never gonna threaten anybody's life. It's not me, but I think if anybody's been around when which I guess you have when I'm hot, and I'm shouting about things, I'm told it's like very terrifying, and it seems very like violence is about to pop off and stuff. So I think that's really the gist. I remember the times there was like anybody I had a big pop off and somebody else would have something similar. Like I was always punished way more, and it was like we were just scarier. It's like, all right, cool. Talking about the possibility of AEW re-signing Brian Cage, Chris Jericho told the Daily Star, "I think Brian Cage over the last 6 months is the best Brian Cage has ever been. I think he's finally starting to understand some of the psychology of wrestling rather than just moves and that sort of thing. He is one of a kind with his size and agility, but now there is more intensity, and I think he's really understanding who he is as a wrestler. 6 months ago, I might have said, well, whatever, if he says that's cool. But now I think he has become a way more valuable part of our roster, and I would sign him for sure. Absolutely." With the recent Pitch Black match at Royal Rumble being sponsored by Mountain Dew, Dave Meltzer touched on details behind this deal, saying on Wrestling Observer Radio, "Well, the thing is that Mountain Dew won. That was $1 million deal. That's significant money if you can get deals like that. It was a really crappy match though, and they kept it short. I guess Pepsi has to decide whether it's worth it to spend $1 million to sponsor a crappy match. Maybe it is. I don't know. On a pay-per-view that was seen by 2 million people." When it comes to having more sponsors for future WWE events, CEO of the company Nick Khan said during the fourth quarter earnings call that, yes, to your question about monetizing the ring assets, it's something we're taking a deep dive into now, and that's what we want to do. In terms of what's driven it, I think it all started with Stephanie McMahon and changing the culture of our sales group from changing from a maybe to a yes. So when Mountain Dew and Pepsi pitched us the idea of sponsoring a match, I think it was done. Was absolutely we'll do it, and then a conversation with Triple H, our head of creative, about hey, we can probably do this, right? Which Triple H and our creative team made every accommodation to get it done. I think that's what's driving it, in addition of going into higher levels for each of these potential companies. After being eliminated by Logan Paul at the Rumble, it seems that Seth Rollins is setting up a feud with the WWE newcomer, saying on Instagram Live, "Alright, look, I was going to avoid this topic, but since I've seen a few of you guys asking so far about Logan Paul, I don't know. I don't know about Logan Paul. All I know is that I don't really like Logan Paul. I'll just say it. A lot of us don't really like Logan Paul. We don't. I don't like Logan Paul. I don't really need him in my locker room, in my space. Great. The guy is ultra talented as far as athletic ability is concerned. He snuck up on me at the Rumble and dumped me. Fine. Whatever. I took my eyes off the ball. That one's on me. But don't go bragging about it like you did something otherworldly. It's probably the coolest thing Logan's ever gonna do in his life. I just advise him to stay in his lane. He's had what, 3 or 4 matches? Again, athletic freak, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, he's just not a wrestler. He doesn't want to be a wrestler. He just wants to be famous. He doesn't care about the industry. He's not a wrestler. It's best for him to just stay in his lane. Whatever his lane is, I don't know. Buying counterfeit Pokemon cards. If that's your lane, stay in that lane. Don't come knocking on my door because I'll knock you out. You don't have your brother for backup because he's about to get cooked by this dude coming up in a couple weeks. He's not going to be around. At some point, we're going to have to come face to face, and I just really don't think he wants none, as they say, I guess. That's all I'm going to say about LP, as they call him. Come in, do your thing, get your little claps and that, have everybody hold your hand. Great. But don't be bragging about throwing me out of the Rumble. That's just kinda calling me a clown. Look at this guy. That's all. Recalling his time as Stardust in WWE, Cody Rhodes mentioned on After the Bell with Corey Graves that, here's his full story. I'm at the TV Hotel. It's a smaller market. We're at a Best Western, which was the TV Hotel shockingly, and I'm not knocking our Best Westerns out there, people. But anyways, I'm at this Best Western, and I'm sitting in a rental car with Brandy. It's freezing because we were in Scranton. It's freezing. We were outside, and the crew bus was right in front of us. It had The Rock, and it had the John Cena photo on it from the second Mania. So we've already seen this bus for over a year now. This story was encompassing really 2 years. This story from John versus Rock, the saga, and it was wonderful. But when you're on the card, not close to that, and at my level, I had been chipping away a little bit. Brass rings here and there, but I hadn't broken through by any means. I just got so tired of seeing their dang faces, and I love John. He was my role model in the business. He's a rental car guy with me until he got a bus. As much as I did, I was just getting so upset, and I told her that I can't keep looking at the same guys. I can't. I got out of the car and I threw a Yoo-Hoo glass bottle up against beautiful Dwayne Johnson's face. There might have been somebody sleeping on this crew bus for all I knew. It shattered everywhere and I just stared at him like I wanted to fight this giant head on the side of this bus. I remember telling her, you marry a wrestler, you're marrying a wrestler. As bad as this is part of it. I got to get this out. And getting it out for me ultimately would lead to me leaving was the only way I could get it out. It was pent up. It was pent up for too long. You know, today you've got a medical team at WWE that includes mental health services. I'm not saying that I was deep down the rabbit hole, but it's still so helpful to talk to somebody. You never want to lower yourself in front of your beloved, in front of your wife. That was one of the hardest things for me, was being Stardust in front of Brandy. That was rough. When Brandy married Cody Rhodes, he was the Intercontinental Champion. He was wrestling Randy Orton every night, and we were absolutely tearing the joints down. Next thing you know, I'm running around in this space outfit and trying to make the best of it, but I was very dead inside. We were right near a critical mass because I remember the next conversation was, here's what needs to happen. And what I said, what needs to happen next, everyone told me not to do. But gotta bet on ourselves wherever we are, and I needed to then. When asked about working with WWE at some point, AEW President Tony Khan told WTF with Mark Maron, who knows? It's something I would certainly be open to, and I think it's an interesting thing for the future. It's not something that's ever really been done. They've kind of existed in their own space. We are working with a lot of wrestling promotions, and at times, they've done stuff like that, but it would be a really interesting thing to see at some point. I think it's like Marvel and DC. You don't see those superheroes really crossing over very much. I think there'd be a lot of jostling for who's going to be positioned stronger. It would get very political. Staying on the topic of AEW, new details have come out about a streaming deal for the promotion, with Bloomberg noting that in March, Khan acquired the small but respected pro wrestling company Ring of Honor from Sinclair Broadcasting Group Incorporated for an undisclosed sum, adding a new crop of wrestlers, some intellectual property, and an extensive video library. AEW is also considering starting a streaming service, likely through a deal with its broadcast partner Warner Bros. Discovery Inc., according to a person familiar with management's thinking who asked not to be named. Last year, AEW broke $100 million in annual revenue for the first time, the person says. It was added on Wrestling Observer Radio. It's hard for me to judge that because the two things everybody ran with afterward were both not true. The video game is not coming out this month, obviously, because if it was, we would all know. And then the other one is they're not close to a streaming deal. Of course, they want one. It's been talked about forever, for more than a year, but it's not a deal that's on the horizon right now. For an interview with CNBC, Nick Khan was asked when WWE could be sold, as the WWE CEO responded, "Quick, and I'm not trying to be obtuse in saying that, but I think it's going to be a pretty fast process, maybe 3 months." Talking about the previously mentioned interview with Nick Khan on CNBC, an analyst told Khan that Comcast was unlikely to purchase WWE, as Raj Giri reported. David Faber tells Nick Khan that Comcast, NBCU, is probably not in the running to buy WWE. Nick Khan said they're still bullish on Comcast being possible, but there's not much he can say about it. A question was also asked 2 times during that interview on CNBC with Nick Khan about Vince McMahon being willing to step back from involvement with WWE if the company were to come across the right deal, with it said that Vince has declared to the board he's 100% open to transactions where he's not included in the company moving forward. A CNBC article would detail how this has been an issue for a transaction, writing, "McMahon's potential future involvement in WWE has become an early sticking point in preliminary talks with various buyers," according to people familiar with the matter, who asked not to be named because the discussions are private. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.